Did you know that starting this January, one single traffic mistake in California can cost you more than a month's rent, even if no one gets hurt? Sounds exaggerated, right? But it's not. In January 2026, a wave of new California driving laws quietly took effect, and most drivers are still completely unaware of how financially brutal they really are. We're not talking about a simple ticket anymore. We're talking about thousands of dollars in fines, insurance premiums that explode overnight, and fees you still have to pay even if the charge is dismissed. What's worse, some of these penalties don't even require a police officer to pull you over. Cameras, data systems, and automated enforcement are now watching every move you make on the road. One tiny habit you've been doing for years without thinking could now put you on the fast track to serious debt. The scary part, you won't even know you're building a violation record until it's too late. Stay with me because law number 3 is catching even the most careful drivers completely off guard, and it might already be costing you money without you realizing it. Before we dive into these laws, let me make something clear. This isn't about fear-mongering or exaggeration. These are real regulations that went into effect in January 2026, and they're already changing how Californians drive, how much they pay, and how their driving records are being monitored. Whether you're a daily commuter, a weekend driver, or someone who just occasionally gets behind the wheel, these laws apply to you. Number 10. Mandatory fees, even when charges are dismissed. Here's the law that's making drivers furious, and for good reason. Under the new California driving rules, getting your ticket dismissed no longer means you walk away without paying. Yes, you heard that right. Even if a judge throws out the charge, even if the officer was wrong, even if the evidence falls apart, you may still be forced to pay mandatory administrative and court fees. These fees are now classified as non-refundable processing costs, not penalties, which means the system keeps your money no matter the outcome. For many drivers, this can range from hundreds to well over $1,000, especially once paperwork fees, system fees, and court handling costs are added up. What makes this even more shocking is how common this situation is becoming. Imagine fighting a ticket because you know you didn't do anything wrong. You take time off work, pay for parking, maybe even hire legal help, only to win your case and still get hit with a massive bill at the end. The victory feels hollow when your wallet is still lighter. This law quietly shifts the financial burden onto drivers, discouraging people from contesting tickets at all. And that's exactly the point. Fewer challenges mean faster processing, more revenue for the state, and less pushback from the public. It's a system designed to make you think twice before exercising your legal right to defend yourself. The breakdown typically looks like this: court processing fees $150 $300, electronic filing charges $25 $75, case management surcharges $100 $200, and dismissal processing fees $50 $150. When you add these together, you're looking at $400 $800 minimum, and in some counties it crosses $1,000 easily. So what can you do? First, always ask for a full breakdown of fees before deciding to contest a citation. Don't assume the clerk will volunteer this information. You need to specifically request a detailed fee schedule. Second, calculate whether fighting the ticket actually saves money in the long run. Sometimes paying the original fine early may cost less than winning your case. Third, keep clean driving habits to avoid entering this system altogether, because once you're in, everyone pays, winners and losers alike. If this law surprised you or honestly made you angry, hit the like button so more drivers see this critical information. Subscribe for updates that protect your license and your wallet, and comment below if you think this rule is fair or completely out of control. Number 9. Tougher penalties for aggressive driving patterns. This law doesn't punish a single mistake, it punishes a pattern, and that's what makes it so dangerous and unpredictable. Starting in January 2026, California expanded how aggressive driving is defined, and it's no longer limited to road rage incidents or extreme speeding violations. Now, enforcement systems and officers can combine multiple small behaviors like following too closely, frequent lane changes, sudden braking, or accelerating quickly at lights into what's called an aggressive driving pattern. On their own, these actions might seem harmless or routine, but together, they can trigger serious penalties that hit you all at once. What's especially unsettling is that this pattern-based approach relies heavily on data and observation, not just a single incident caught in the moment. Traffic cameras, patrol vehicles, and even prior citations from months or years ago can be used to establish a driving profile. Once you're labeled as an aggressive driver, you may face steeper fines, license points, mandatory driving behavior courses, and in some cases, increased insurance scrutiny that follows you for years. And because this law focuses on behavior over time rather than individual incidents, many drivers won't even realize they're at risk until the penalty hits. There's no warning system, no notification that you're building a dangerous profile. The first time you hear about it is when you receive a citation or a notice from your insurance company. Think about your daily commute for a moment. Heavy traffic, tight schedules, frustration after a long, stressful day at work. It's easy to speed up slightly, squeeze into a lane, or ride someone's bumper without thinking twice. These feel like normal driving behaviors when everyone around you is doing the same thing. But under this law, those everyday habits can now stack up against you financially and legally. The system works like this: each minor violation or observed behavior gets logged. When enough incidents accumulate within a certain time frame, usually 6 to 12 months, the system flags your driving record. Once flagged, your next violation, even a minor one, can trigger enhanced penalties based on the pattern, not just the current offense. The scariest part, you don't get a warning that you're building a record. There's no alert system telling you you're 2 violations away from being classified as aggressive. The pattern builds silently in the background until it suddenly becomes a very expensive problem. To protect yourself, focus on consistency, not speed. Leave more space between vehicles even when it feels unnecessary. Make deliberate signaled lane changes well in advance. Resist the urge to keep up with aggressive traffic flow when conditions are chaotic. In 2026, it's no longer about how fast you drive on any given day. It's about how you behave repeatedly over time, and the system is always watching and remembering. Number 8. License points for non-moving violations. This new rule is catching drivers completely off guard because it breaks a fundamental principle most people have believed for decades. No movement, no points. That simple logic no longer applies. Starting in January 2026, certain non-moving violations in California can now add points directly to your driver's license. That means infractions that happen while your car is parked, barely moving, or even turned off. Things that used to result in nothing more than a fine and an annoying afternoon can now quietly damage your driving record with lasting consequences. And once points appear on your license, the real financial pain begins. Insurance companies review your point total regularly, and each point can justify premium increases that add hundreds of dollars to your annual costs. So what qualifies as a non-moving violation with points now? The list is longer than you'd expect. Expired registration issues, insurance documentation failures, improper parking in restricted safety zones like fire lanes or disabled spaces, administrative compliance errors during a traffic stop, equipment violations discovered during parking enforcement, and even unpaid parking tickets that escalate to moving violations. These aren't reckless actions, these aren't dangerous driving behaviors, but under the new system, they're treated as indicators of driver responsibility or lack thereof. The logic is that if you can't maintain basic compliance and paperwork, you're a higher risk driver overall. Accumulate enough of these points, and you could face insurance premium increases that persist for 3 to 5 years, mandatory driver improvement programs that cost both time and money, or even license suspension without ever being stopped for dangerous driving. Think about that. Your license could be suspended while your car sits in your driveway, simply because paperwork violations accumulated points over time. What makes this especially dangerous is how invisible it feels to most drivers. Many people don't regularly check their license status, assuming points only come from speeding tickets or accidents. They have no idea these administrative violations are quietly building up. By the time they notice something is wrong, usually when insurance renewals spike or they apply for a new policy and get quoted astronomical rates, it's already too late. Points stay on your record for years, silently working against you every time your driving history is reviewed by insurance companies, employers, or rental agencies. The damage compounds over time. The safest move in 2026 is to treat paperwork and compliance as seriously as driving itself. Keep your registration current, always verify insurance documentation is up to date in state systems, resolve any citations immediately instead of delaying them, and check your driving record every few months. A chess to catch problems early. In this new system, even standing still can cost you dearly because the law no longer cares whether your wheels were moving, only whether your record is clean and your paperwork is perfect. Number 7. Stricter rules on modified vehicles. If your car looks, sounds, or sits even slightly different from factory standard, this law should have your complete and immediate attention. Beginning in January 2026, California dramatically tightened enforcement around modified vehicles, and the changes go far beyond just loud exhausts or extreme body kits. What used to be a simple fix-it ticket that you could clear up in a few days can now escalate into hefty fines, mandatory professional inspections, and in some cases, your vehicle being flagged as non-compliant in state databases. That flag doesn't disappear easily, and it can follow you every time your car is scanned or stopped, creating a permanent mark on your vehicle's record. The biggest shift is how broadly modification is now defined under the law. Exhaust systems that increase volume even slightly, window tint that exceeds legal darkness percentages, suspension height alterations that change ground clearance, aftermarket lighting including LED upgrades, wheel spacing and offset changes, performance chips or software tuning, and even cosmetic modifications that alter vehicle dimensions. Officers no longer need to prove the modification is actually dangerous or harmful. They only need to establish that it doesn't meet current regulatory standards. Once cited, drivers may be required to pay substantial penalties, revert the vehicle back to stock condition, and pass a state-approved reinspection, all at their own expense. What makes this financially brutal is the stacking effect that catches people by surprise. First comes the initial citation, which can range from $200 to $500 depending on the violation. Then comes the cost of parts removal or replacement, which can run into thousands depending on what needs changing. Then you have inspection fees charged by certified facilities. Then there's lost time and potential towing costs if the vehicle is deemed unsafe to drive. And if the issue isn't resolved correctly the first time, repeat citations are possible, each adding more costs. For car enthusiasts who have invested in their vehicles, this can turn a passion project into a financial nightmare overnight. A car that's been modified over years, perhaps with parts that cost $5,000 total, might need complete reversal costing similar amounts just to comply. Even worse, many drivers don't realize their vehicle is non-compliant until they're already cited, especially if the modifications were installed years ago under older, more lenient rules. The law doesn't grandfather in previous modifications. If it doesn't meet 2026 standards, it's a violation, regardless of when it was done. Before renewing your registration or driving long distances in 2026, verify that every single modification on your vehicle meets current California standards. Check the Bureau of Automotive Repair website, consult with certified shops, and when in doubt, keep it stock. Because in this new regulatory environment, looking cool or sounding powerful isn't just risky anymore, it's genuinely expensive. Number 6. Higher penalties for speeding near sensors. Speeding has always been expensive in California, but in 2026, where you speed matters just as much, if not more, than how fast you're actually going. California has expanded the use of speed detection sensors throughout the state, and the penalties tied to these specific zones are far harsher than traditional speeding tickets issued by officers. These sensors are now installed in areas many drivers assume are relatively safe from enforcement. Long stretches of open road, downhill sections where speed naturally increases, areas where speed limits subtly change, freeway on-ramps and merge zones, and residential streets that look empty but are monitored. Go just a few miles per hour over the limit near one of these sensors, and you could trigger an automatic citation with enhanced fines. No flashing lights, no siren, no officer pulling you over, no warning whatsoever. Just a notice that arrives in your mailbox 2 to 3 weeks later demanding payment, often with fees already added. What makes this law especially dangerous and frustrating is that sensor-based zones often use dynamic speed limits. That means the posted limit can actually change based on real-time conditions like traffic flow, weather conditions, time of day, or special events. A road might be 65 mph 1 hour and 55 mph the next, with electronic signs updating the limit. Drivers who rely on memory instead of constantly watching signage can unknowingly exceed the limit, even if they've driven the same road for years and think they know the speed. And once the sensor records the violation, there's very little room for explanation or discretion. The system logs your exact speed, precise time, and GPS location. Clean, simple, and extremely hard to challenge in court. The financial hit doesn't stop at the base fine itself. Sensor-based violations are frequently classified as enhanced enforcement offenses, which leads to higher base penalties starting around $300 to $400, additional processing fees for automated systems, greater likelihood of insurance companies being notified, and increased points on your license compared to standard speeding tickets. For repeat offenses in sensor zones, the costs escalate dramatically. A second violation within 12 months can double the fine. A third can trigger mandatory traffic school. A fourth can lead to license suspension proceedings. In 2026, speeding is no longer primarily about reckless driving or endangering others. It's about precision and constant attention. Drivers must pay much closer attention to posted limits, especially in unfamiliar areas or roads that appear wide and open where higher speeds feel natural. Check your speed frequently, watch for electronic signs, and assume sensors are everywhere because increasingly they are. Near these sensors, Even a brief moment of inattention can quietly drain your wallet before you even realize anything went wrong. Number 5. Mandatory insurance verification in real time. In 2026, simply having car insurance is no longer enough to protect you. You must be able to prove it instantly, in real time, or face immediate and severe consequences. California has rolled out mandatory real-time insurance verification systems, allowing officers and enforcement systems to check your coverage status on the spot through connected databases that update continuously. If the system shows a lapse, a delay, or even a mismatch in information, even by mistake or technical error, you can be treated as an uninsured driver, regardless of what you believe your policy status to be or what your insurance company tells you. This is where things get genuinely risky and frustrating for law-abiding drivers. Insurance databases don't always update instantly. A recent policy renewal, a switch between insurance providers, a change in payment methods, or even your insurance company's system delays can create short gaps in the state database. During those gaps which you're completely unaware of, a traffic stop, a roadside checkpoint, or even an automated license plate scan can flag your vehicle as non-compliant. Once that happens, the penalties move frighteningly fast. Immediate citations ranging from $500 $1,000 vehicle impound risk requiring expensive towing and storage fees, mandatory SR22 filing requirements that increase insurance costs for years, reinstatement fees to restore your license, and potential court appearances. Even if the issue is later corrected and you prove you actually were insured the entire time, the financial damage may already be done. Some fees are non-refundable. Your car might have been impounded, costing hundreds in recovery, and your insurance company might raise your rates simply because a violation was recorded, even though it was a database error. What makes this law especially stressful for drivers is that it removes human discretion almost entirely. In the past, showing a paper insurance card or explaining a recent policy change often bought you time or understanding. An officer might give you a few days to provide updated proof. Now, the system's response carries more weight than your explanation or documentation. An automated enforcement system doesn't care if your phone app won't load, your insurance company's website is down, or their system is lagging in reporting to the state. From the system's perspective, no verification in the database means no coverage, period. To protect yourself in this new environment, redundancy is absolutely key. Keep digital proof on your phone in multiple formats, carry printed insurance documents in your vehicle at all times, save confirmation emails from every policy change or renewal, and screenshot your insurance app showing current coverage. After renewing insurance or changing providers, proactively double-check that your insurer has updated California state records correctly. Don't assume they did it automatically. Call them, verify, and get confirmation in writing. In 2026, insurance enforcement is no longer about trust or good faith. It's about data accuracy in government systems. And when those systems fail, which they do regularly, drivers are the ones who pay the price, not the insurance companies or the state. Number 4. Harsher penalties for rolling stops. The casual California stop is officially no longer casual, and this change is catching millions of drivers who have developed this habit over decades. In 2026, California has clarified and significantly toughened enforcement around rolling stops, turning one of the most common and seemingly harmless driving habits into a surprisingly expensive mistake. A rolling stop, where a river slows down substantially but doesn't come to a complete, motionless stop at a stop sign or red light before turning, is now treated as a clear and serious violation with higher fines and stricter penalties than in previous years. What's changed isn't just the rule itself, but how aggressively and technologically it's being enforced. Officers no longer need to show that the behavior was dangerous, disruptive, or created any actual hazard. If your wheels don't fully stop, even for just a moment, that's enough for a citation. The standard is now absolute, complete stop or violation, no middle ground. In many areas throughout California, intersections are now monitored by high-resolution cameras capable of detecting even slight wheel movement. These systems can measure whether your vehicle came to a complete stop with remarkable accuracy. This means citations can be issued without any officer present at the scene. Drivers often don't realize they've been cited until a notice arrives in the mail 2 to 3 weeks later, long after they've forgotten about that specific intersection. The financial impact goes well beyond the ticket itself, which now starts around $300 $400 for a first offense. Rolling stop violations can now carry license points that affect your driving record, increased insurance scrutiny that may raise your premiums, and in repeat cases, mandatory traffic safety courses that cost additional money and time. Because this behavior is so deeply ingrained and common, especially in quiet neighborhoods, residential streets, and early morning commutes when roads feel empty, Many drivers rack up multiple violations without realizing their long-standing habits have changed from acceptable to punishable. One rushed morning trying to get to work on time, one distracted moment thinking about your day, one assumption that the empty intersection doesn't require a full stop, can now follow you financially for years through increased insurance costs and points on your record. The psychology is difficult too. Rolling stops feel safe when you can clearly see no other cars or pedestrians are around. Your brain tells you stopping completely is unnecessary, but the law and the cameras don't care about context or safety in that moment. They care only about compliance with the technical requirement of a complete stop. The safest approach in 2026 is simple but requires intentional behavior change. Treat every single stop sign like a pause button, regardless of time of day or traffic conditions. Come to a full, complete stop where you feel the car settle, count to 2 in your head, and then proceed. It may feel unnecessary and frustrating when you're in a hurry, but in the eyes of the law and the cameras monitoring you, that moment of complete stillness is the difference between moving on with your day or paying for it financially long after the drive is over. Number 3. Zero tolerance phone handling rules. In 2026, touching your phone while driving, even for a single second, can now cost you far more than you ever expected. California has moved to absolute zero-tolerance phone handling enforcement, meaning any physical interaction with your phone while your vehicle is in motion or in traffic is considered a serious violation. It doesn't matter if you're checking directions, dismissing a call, adjusting the volume, switching songs, or just moving the phone from one place to another. If your hands are on the phone and you're in the driver's seat with the engine running, you're in violation. No warnings, no gray areas, no excuses. What makes this law especially harsh and unforgiving is how strictly it's being interpreted by enforcement. Drivers no longer need to be seen actively texting or talking. Simply holding a phone, briefly touching the screen, or adjusting it in a mount can be enough for a citation. Officers and cameras are specifically trained to look for any hand-to-device contact, and enforcement has been dramatically expanded in urban areas, major intersections, and congestion zones. Many drivers assume they're safe at red lights or in stop-and-go traffic, but under this rule, being in traffic, regardless of whether you're moving, means enforcement fully applies. Your car doesn't need to be in motion, it just needs to be in gear or capable of moving. The financial consequences add up shockingly fast. First offense fines now start around $200 $300, but that's just the beginning. Second offense within 12 months jumps to $500 $700. Third offense can exceed $1,000 and include mandatory license points. These violations are also more likely to be reported to insurance companies, who treat phone use very seriously due to accident correlations. For professional drivers like delivery workers, rideshare drivers, or commercial vehicle operators, multiple citations can stack within months, turning a small unconscious habit into a serious financial and employment problem. And because phone use is so deeply ingrained in our daily routines and modern life, this is arguably one of the easiest laws to violate without even realizing you're doing it. Your phone buzzes, your hand reaches for it instinctively, and before your brain even processes the action, you've committed a violation that a camera may have already recorded. The enforcement technology is sophisticated. Cameras can detect the distinctive posture and hand position of phone use from multiple angles. AI systems are trained specifically on this behavior. In some areas, even holding your phone in your lap where it's visible can trigger scrutiny. The safest adjustment, though it requires real behavior change, is to go completely hands-free before you even shift into drive. Set your navigation destination, choose your music or podcast, and set up any calls before you leave. Use voice controls exclusively once driving. Put your phone in the glove box, the back seat, or anywhere you physically cannot reach it easily. In 2026, convenience is no longer an acceptable excuse, and momentary distractions are no longer forgiven. When it comes to phones and driving, the law is now simple, absolute, and completely unforgiving. Hands off or pay the price repeatedly. Number 2. Expanded use of AI traffic cameras. In 2026, traffic enforcement in California has quietly but dramatically shifted from human judgment to algorithmic surveillance, and the vast majority of drivers have absolutely no idea how comprehensively they're being watched. The state has expanded the use of AI-powered traffic cameras exponentially, and these systems do far more than just catch red light runners or speeders. They analyze movement patterns across multiple cameras, detect phone handling through window visibility, identify rolling stops with precision, track lane behavior and weaving, monitor following distances, and even flag repeat behaviors across different locations and times. You don't need to be pulled over anymore. In fact, you might never interact with a human officer. The camera never blinks, never sleeps, and never forgets. What makes this especially unsettling is how accurate and relentless these systems have become. AI cameras don't get distracted by other incidents, don't issue warnings based on sympathy, don't care if you're late for work or having a terrible day, and don't make judgment calls about intent. They simply log time, speed, behavior, and vehicle details instantly and with perfect accuracy. Once a violation is recorded, a citation can be generated automatically and mailed to you weeks later, often with enhanced fines and processing fees already calculated. By the time you find out about the violation, there's no recent memory to rely on, just data that's extremely difficult to dispute in court. Another major change that's catching drivers off guard is where these cameras are now being placed. They're no longer limited to major intersections and obvious high-traffic areas. You'll now find them near school zones with extended enforcement hours, residential streets that seem quiet and unmonitored, freeway on-ramps and merge zones, construction zones with changing patterns, and areas with frequently changing or temporary speed limits. Many drivers assume enforcement ends once traffic thins out or they leave major roads, but that's exactly where AI systems actually thrive. Quiet roads with predictable behavior patterns are ideal for algorithmic monitoring. The system learns what normal looks like, then flags anything that deviates. The biggest psychological risk is the absence of immediate feedback. Without flashing lights, sirens, or being pulled over, drivers don't adjust their behavior in real time. They keep driving exactly the way they always have, assuming no enforcement is happening, until multiple citations arrive at once in the mail. Imagine opening your mailbox to find 4 or 5 citations from different dates and locations, each with fines, fees, and points, totaling $2,000.3000. This is happening to California drivers right now, turning routine drives into unexpected financial disasters. The system also creates a comprehensive profile of your driving behavior over time. Repeated patterns, even if each individual incident wouldn't warrant attention, can trigger enhanced scrutiny. The AI learns your routes, your habits, and your tendencies. With AI cameras everywhere, it's no longer about getting caught in the moment. It's about being constantly recorded, analyzed, and evaluated. Every drive is permanently documented. Every habit is tracked. And every violation is logged into a system that never forgets and never gives second chances. Number 1. Increased fines linked to in. This is the law that's changing absolutely everything about traffic enforcement, and it's the reason some California drivers are seeing traffic fines that feel completely unreal and financially devastating. In 2026, California dramatically expanded the use of income-linked traffic fines, meaning the amount you pay for a violation can now be directly tied to what you earn, not just what you did. 2 drivers can commit the exact same offense in the exact same location under identical circumstances and walk away owing dramatically different amounts. For higher income earners, a routine citation can suddenly feel like a financial punishment designed to hurt, rather than just a deterrent. The logic behind this system is rooted in fairness theory. The argument is that fines should create equal deterrent effect regardless of income. A $300 ticket might be devastating to someone earning $30,000 annually, but meaningless to someone earning $300,000. Therefore, fines should scale proportionally to actually change behavior across all economic levels. But in practice, it's leaving many drivers absolutely stunned when they open their citation notice and see penalties that run far higher than anything they could have anticipated. Minor infractions like speeding slightly over the limit, rolling through a stop sign, or touching a phone can balloon into 4-figure costs once income calculations, administrative fees, and surcharges are applied. What makes this even more complicated is how income data is determined. The system often uses recent tax returns, public salary records for government employees, property values, or even estimated income based on vehicle value and zip code. Drivers may be fined based on figures that don't reflect their current financial reality. Maybe they lost a job, took a pay cut, or had a financial emergency. The system doesn't account for current circumstances, only past data. For self-employed individuals, the calculations can be especially problematic. Gross business income might be used rather than actual take-home pay, resulting in fines based on money that was never actually available as personal income. Here's a real-world example. A software engineer earning $150,000 annually gets caught going 15 mph over the speed limit. Instead of a $300 base fine, they receive a notice for $1,400 after income adjustment, plus processing fees, bringing the total to over $1,600. Meanwhile, a driver earning $40,000, who committed the identical violation at the same location, pays $350 total. What makes this law especially dangerous psychologically is how quietly it operates in the background. There's no sign on the road warning you that your income tax return is now part of the enforcement equation. There's no notification when you register your vehicle that your future fines will be calculated differently than your neighbors. By the time you realize income was a factor, the fine has already been assessed, processed, and demands payment. Contesting these income-based calculations can be difficult, time-consuming, and expensive in itself. You may need to provide extensive financial documentation, possibly hire legal or financial representation, and go through multiple hearings. And even if the fine is adjusted later, you've already invested significant time and potentially money into the dispute process. The system also creates strange incentive structures. Some drivers are now considering whether certain career moves or income increases are worth the potential increase in traffic penalties. Others are questioning whether living in high-income zip codes subjects them to higher algorithmic income estimates. For families with multiple drivers, one person's high income can affect tickets received by other household members if vehicles are registered to the high earner, even if they weren't driving. In 2026, traffic enforcement isn't just about driving behavior anymore. It's fundamentally about financial exposure. The higher your documented income, the higher your risk every time you get behind the wheel. And for many drivers, that reality is turning everyday mistakes into budget-breaking events that linger long after the drive is over, sometimes taking months to financially recover from. If there's one thing this comprehensive guide proves beyond any doubt, it's that driving in California in 2026 is no longer just about safety, skill, or even following basic traffic laws. It's about financial survival and understanding a complex enforcement system designed to catch you off guard. Small habits you've maintained for years, minor mistakes anyone could make, and everyday routines that feel completely normal can now lead to massive financial consequences if you're not prepared and constantly vigilant. These laws aren't designed to scare you, but they will absolutely punish you severely if you ignore them or assume the rules haven't changed. The enforcement landscape has fundamentally transformed. Cameras and AI systems are everywhere. Violations stack up silently. Fees apply even when you're proven innocent. And your income now determines how much you pay for the same mistake someone else makes. Knowledge is truly your only real defense in this new environment. Understanding these laws, adjusting your driven habits accordingly, staying current on your paperwork, and treating every moment behind the wheel as permanently monitored isn't paranoia, it's necessary adaptation to the current reality. If this guide opened your eyes to how much has changed, share it with every driver you know. Hit the like button so more Californians stay informed and protected. Subscribe for continuing updates on laws, regulations, and strategies that protect your license and your wallet. And comment below which of these 10 laws shocked you the most or has already affected you personally. The roads haven't changed, but everything about how you're watched, judged, and punished on them has. Stay alert, drive smart, adapt quickly, and protect your financial future. Because in 2026 California, every drive is being recorded, every habit is being analyzed, and every mistake is being calculated into a system that never forgets and never gives warnings.